Sidney Crosby is one of the most dominant players in the history of the NHL, and I even made a separate video talking about why he's been so dominant. But although he's been dominant his whole career, there's one point that stands out. Between 2014 and 2017, Crosby won 3 gold medals, 2 Stanley Cups, 2 Conn Smythes, and much, much more, all in a 40-month span. This run rivals some of the greatest periods of sustained success in sports history, and it may be the greatest run in hockey history. On February 9th, 2014, the NHL season went on a week-and-a-half break for the 2014 Winter Olympics in Sochi, Russia, and this was back when NHL players were allowed to go. So Sidney Crosby and a bunch of other top players in the league would leave their team to represent their home country. Crosby would of course join Team Canada and enter the Olympics at the top of his game. Currently in the NHL season, Crosby played 58 games and had a league-leading 78 points, 10 points above Ryan Getzlaf, who would be his teammate in Sochi. Crosby would play alongside his teammate Chris Kunitz and one of the best defensive forwards the game has ever seen, Patrice Bergeron. The group stage saw Canada play against Finland, Austria, and Norway, which wasn't the strongest group but still competitive with Finland and Canada together. Canada put together 2 wins in their first 2 games against Norway and Austria, and were set to play Finland in the last game of the group stage. Crosby would assist Drew Doughty on the game's opening goal before Finland tied the game up, sending it to overtime. Doughty would end up winning the game with his second of the game, putting Canada at the top of their group. They would then take care of Latvia in the quarters and then took care of the United States in the semifinals, putting them against Sweden in the finals. Crosby saved his first goal of the tournament for the right time as he struck, making it 2-0 Canada late in the second period. This would give Canada enough to claim gold, giving Crosby his second Olympic gold medal.
Sid, say something! What's up?
Crosby returned to the NHL fresh off his gold medal win and continued to dominate the NHL. He finished the season with 26 points through the remaining 22 games, putting him at 104 points, sitting atop the NHL, claiming the Art Ross Trophy. His play would then help the Penguins clinch the playoffs, where they were set to play the Columbus Blue Jackets in the first round. Despite the underwhelming postseason, Crosby controlled the NHL regular season and earned the Hart Memorial Trophy for the league's most valuable player. The next season, Crosby put up 84 points through 77 games, which was a bit of a disappointing regular season in terms of Crosby, but he still finished 5th in Hart voting. The Penguins had a letdown of a postseason, losing to the Rangers again, this time in 5 games. With the early playoff exit, Crosby joined Team Canada at the 2015 IIHF tournament. When NHL players' teams miss the playoffs or they get knocked out early, they often join their national teams for the international tournaments like the IIHF World Championship. So after the NHL season wraps up, players who are available and interested get picked by their national teams, and this was the case for Sid, of course. Canada would play in Group A with the likes of Sweden and Czechia, and finished atop their group after a perfect 7-0 record, averaging 7 goals a game and allowing just 2 on average. They then made light work of the tournament, allowing 1 goal in the playoff games and scoring 17 through 3 games. They beat Russia in the finals 6-1, where Crosby registered a goal and an assist to finish the tournament with 11 points in 9 games en route to a gold medal. Crosby went into the 2016 season and registered 85 points in 80 games during the regular season, helping the Penguins clinch the playoffs with the 2nd seed in the Metro Division and 4th in the entire NHL. They were set to play the New York Rangers, who had eliminated them in the previous 2 seasons. But this time it would go their way as they took care of them in 5 games, where Crosby recorded 8 points. They then played the President's Trophy winning Washington Capitals, who finished the regular season with 120 points. Crosby vs. Ovechkin was always a treat to watch, and this time it went Crosby's way. Despite just having 2 points in the series, Sid and the Pens took down the Caps in 6 games. In the conference finals, they faced the Tampa Bay Lightning and battled through a tough 7-game series. The Penguins fell down 3-2 in the series and then were forced to win 2 games in a row, which they did, booking a ticket to the Stanley Cup Final. They were set to play the San Jose Sharks, who finished the regular season as the 5th best team in the West, and had to go through the LA Kings, Nashville Predators, and St. Louis Blues to reach the final. But in Game 6, Crosby recorded 2 assists in the win, including a primary assist on the game-winning goal to clinch the Stanley Cup. The entire playoff run saw Crosby score 19 points in 24 games, winning the Conn Smythe as the most valuable player in the playoffs. Then just 3 months later, Crosby was named to Team Canada in the 2016 World Cup of Hockey. The World Cup featured 8 teams, including Canada, USA, Finland, Sweden, Czechia, Russia, and then 2 other exciting teams. First was Team Europe, who were European players from the teams that were not already represented. Second was Team North America, which consisted of players from Canada and the States who were 23 and under, meaning we would get to see McDavid, Matthews, and McKinnon compete on the same team. Crosby and Team Canada were put into Group A, which had Team Europe, Czechia, and the United States. Canada would go undefeated, going 3-0, advancing to the knockout stage with Team Europe. So in the knockout stage, Canada played Russia, and Europe played Sweden. Crosby opened the scoring with his 3rd goal of the tournament, putting the puck past Sergei Bobrovsky.
Steal by Sidney Crosby, he shoots, he scores!
Russia then responded with 2 goals from Kucherov and Kuznetsov, before Crosby would assist in the next 2 goals by Marchand.
Crosby to Marchand, he scores! Crystal Crosby with some speed. Drop pass, here's Marchand, shoots, he scores!
Canada would hold this lead and add to it, winning 6-3, advancing to the final best-of-3 series against Europe. In Game 1, the line of Crosby, Bergeron, and Marchand would strike first with a goal from Marchand, assisted by his 2 other line mates. That line would also put the icing on the cake, scoring Canada's 3rd goal of the game, with a goal from Bergeron assisted by Marchand and Crosby. In Game 2, Crosby assisted the tying goal by Bergeron, and eventually Marchand would score the game-winning goal for Canada, finishing the tournament with a perfect 7-0 record. Crosby led the tournament in points with 10 in 7 games, winning the MVP of the tournament. This elite play would lead into the 2016-2017 season, where Crosby had 89 points in 75 games, scoring the league-leading 44 goals, winning the Maurice Rocket Richard Trophy. The Pens, coming off a Stanley Cup, clinched the playoffs, finishing 2nd in the league, right behind their division rivals, the Washington Capitals. The Penguins played the Blue Jackets in the first round and made quick work of them as they beat them in 5 games, where Crosby recorded 7 points. They then went on to play the Capitals for the 2nd year in a row, but in 6 games, led by Crosby's 7 points, the Pens took down the President's Trophy winning team again. The Penguins then played in a great 7-game series against the Ottawa Senators, which would eventually end in double OT with a Chris Kunitz goal, assisted by none other than Sidney Crosby.
Fresh from the bench, it's Crosby. Crosby on Kunitz and shot. Penguins win it, and they go to the final.
The Penguins now had the chance to win their 2nd straight cup. This time, they were up against the Nashville Predators. The Penguins took the first 2 games of the series, then lost the next 2, then won the next 2 to win their 2nd straight Stanley Cup.
One more try, deflected over the net, and the Pittsburgh Penguins again are the Stanley Cup champions.
Crosby, with 27 points in 24 games, claimed his 2nd straight Conn Smythe Trophy as the playoff MVP. And that put the end to the 40-month stranglehold that Crosby had on the entire world of hockey. And if you're observant at all, you would notice that he did this as captain of every single one of those teams. With 3 gold medals, 2 Stanley Cups, 2 Conn Smythes, an NHL MVP, a World Cup of Hockey MVP, an Art Ross, and a Rocket Richard, all as team captain, there will never be a more dominant time in the NHL by a single player.
Sid, say something! What's up?